Well, greetings, Cap fans. Welcome to episode 201 of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. Hey, I'm Rick Verbanis, and I'm your host of this episode. And I've got a co-host. His name is Bob Lucius. And this is the part where I give Bob a different greeting, just in case you missed the first 200 episodes. Oh, Bob, let's make the best of the situation before I finally go insane. Please don't say I'll never find a way and tell me all my love's in vain.
First, is it a Beatles song?
No,
No, I
no.
don't. I have no idea.
Layla, you got me
Oh,
on my knees, Layla.
all right. Now
Ah,
that Eric Clapton,
yes.
but
But is
but
it?
the original one was
Uh-huh.
by who? I heard it the other day on the radio. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact,
Derek and the Dominoes.
Derek and the Dominoes.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that
Wow.
was the band. So Eric Clapton was in a band called Cream,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And then he left that and he did Derek and the Dominoes. He was Eric, right?
Uh-huh.
And then he had a very, very successful solo career following that. But that song Layla is perhaps one of his best beloved hits.
Yeah.
And then you remember when they introduced on MTV Unplugged?
I don't.
No?
No.
So this was the early
I remember. I
90s.
remember the show, but yeah, I don't. I don't remember. Oh, you're when they introduced the show, not the introduction of the show.
Yeah, well, yeah, in the early 90s
Yeah,
they created this show called
yeah,
Unplugged and so
acoustics.
yeah, and they would just come on and do acoustic versions of their song. Well,
Yeah,
Layla, he did an acoustic version of it, which was a huge, huge hit and got plenty of airtime. Anyway, Rob, why am I greeting you with the song Layla?
no, I know that one. I know that
Yeah?
one. Because Layla is in this story
Yeah,
that
but
we're going
not
to
this
cover.
Layla. Yeah, yeah.
No, not the different Layla. Different
Different
Layla.
Layla. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have some conversations about Layla
Oh, we
and her
will, Bob.
particular tone of voice, and maybe even her apparel.
Yeah, there is a particular panel I do want to talk about,
Oh,
and a little bit of her attitude.
yeah.
Um, so I picked those particular lyrics. Let's make the best of the situation before I finally go insane. Please
Uh-huh.
don't say I'll never find a way. Kind of is the situation Steve Rogers faces himself in, and then
Yeah.
the other reason I picked this song is because it was released in the early '70s, much like today's comic. We're covering
Yes.
Captain America 170.
Wow. Way back, Rick. Way
Yeah,
back in time. I
we
love how
are.
we jump around. I love the fact that we have decades and decades and decades of Captain America stories to pull from, and that allows us to like just jump back and forth among those different decades to pluck some of these stories out from the memories of our youth. That's just satisfying.
100%. Yeah, and we try to mix it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we're covering today, we are kicking off a particular long tail story is what we like to call it, and we've done several of these over the 3 to 4 years we've been doing this podcast, and the idea is that it's too long a story to do in one or maybe even two episodes. So we're going to just break it out over the course of time. And so that is going to be typically the second Wednesday of every month. First Wednesday of every month, we try to have a creator on the show, a guest on the show. The second one is this long tail. And we're going to do a panel by panel review. And this is going to last, several months as we go through this story because we are doing The Secret Empire.
I love that title. I love it. And Marvel loved it so much they used it twice. So
Yeah.
it's a great title.
It is. And we'll get into that as we get into today's story. The other thing, too, going on, I just wanted to talk quickly about birthdays. It's your birthday. So there's a lot of if you're listening when this episode came out, right? So this is August 14th, 2024, if you're listening to it on the day it comes out. And there are a few birthdays this week of some really famous Captain America creators. So on the 17th is the birthday for John Romita Jr.
Gotta love John. He's definitely a classic, going all the way back to the 19th. Oh, is that Junior? This
Yeah,
is Junior.
Junior.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't hear the Junior. I was thinking of the dad, who also has a long storied history with Captain America, but certainly Jr. Junior. And our it takes me back to when we went over Volume 7, that first story arc, Rick.
Yeah, that was another long tail story we
Yeah.
did. And we did the first 10 issues of Volume 7, which was penciled by John Ritter Jr., and it took place in the Dimension Z, which Z for Zola. So happy birthday to John Ritter Jr. on the 17th. And then the next day, the 18th, Bob, friend of the show, Ron Garney.
Ron Garney, another great interview with Ron. Man, these
Yeah,
are some heavy hitters. Must have been
yeah.
something about this horoscope time
I
frame or
guess.
something.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, we loved Ron Garney on the show. He's in my top three of all time favorite Captain America artists. So, he had a great run at the end of Volume 1 with Mark Waid, and then the beginning of Volume 3 with Mark
Mm-hmm.
Waid. Loved his run, and then he did some other Cap comics as well. And then on the 20th, so a couple days after Ron's birthday, George Rossos.
George Rossos. All right, it's a little more modern than those two.
Uh, no, Bob.
No,
No,
who am I thinking, Rick?
I don't know who you're thinking, but George
Uh,
George Rossos is a colorist,
yeah, yeah.
and
Oh, yeah,
he's been a colorist for a very very long time.
yeah.
I think he was a colorist for Captain America in the early to mid 70s, but then, gosh, I think he no, I take that back. He was doing Captain America coloring in the 80s and 90s. I guess filling in when Bob Sharon couldn't do it, but
Mm-hmm.
he had a really nice long run as a colorist for Cap. But he also, you ready for this?
I'm ready. That's
This
what
is definitely not modern time.
yeah.
He actually worked on Captain America comics
Oh my
back in the
goodness.
40s.
Yeah. Well, certainly not modern. You know who I was thinking of? I was thinking of George Genty.
Oh, George Genty. Yeah, we had him on
Yeah,
the show.
we had
Yeah,
him
yeah,
on
yeah.
the show. I'm a visual
Yeah,
guy, and so when you said George, I think faces, and that's who popped into my head. Great, that was a great
I got
interview
you.
as well.
It was. It was one of those weird interviews. I wish I could redo that one, Bob, because he was the artist for the U.S. Agent miniseries,
Right.
and we did the panel by panel for the first three issues of the four-issue miniseries, and then the second half of the show we interviewed George Genti. Felt like we shortchanged him. If I could go back, I would
Yeah.
redo that and just separate the two.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. We could have probably spent more time with him too,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Anyway, happy birthday to John, Ron, and George. All right. Do you think we should get into today's comic?
Yeah. Let's just jump on in. It's
All right.
exciting.
Yeah. So this is, as I mentioned, Captain America 170. And I will say also, too, that it is actually, I take it back. It's not Captain America 170. It is Captain America and the Falcon 170. And if there, they changed the title from Captain America to Captain America and the Falcon in issue 134. So that happened maybe like 2 years prior to what we're covering today. And then it continued through issue 222, which was in June of 78. So for like 7 years, it was Captain America and the Falcon, which I always still refer to it as Captain America.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yep. All right. So this particular issue had a release date of October 30th, 1973, and a cover date of 1974. And before I get into the creators of this particular issue, Bob, what was the big thing going on back in 1973, right? Because what were you? You were like what in college then?
Oh, I was just trying to think, like, what was I doing in the fall of 1973, Rick? And I wasn't much. It wasn't much. I was probably eating and pooping a lot. I don't know. How old was I? 68, 69, 70, 71, like five maybe. So I think I have one photo of me at that age, and I didn't look particularly smart. So I know I wasn't reading comics at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. But if I had, I would have definitely picked up this one because it has a great cover. But there were a lot of things going on that I bet that the people who were reading this comic uh, knew all about. And the
Hmm.
big thing at that time, of course, is this was during Nixon's first term in office. And as you know, because we've had this discussion before with Steve Englehart, those contemporary politics of that time fed into a lot of what was going on in the Cap universe at the time. So Nixon was, he was doing pretty good in his first term. He'd had a lot of major accomplishments, right? He negotiated an anti-ballistic missile treaty with the Soviets. He had gone to China and had spearheaded the opening of relations with the People's Republic of China, and he was supposedly anyway, beginning to do the phased withdrawal of U.S. troops from Vietnam, the so-called Vietnamization. But going on behind the scenes, he also started a bombing campaign in Cambodia and Laos to disrupt the Ho Chi Minh Trail at the time. And as a result of that, there were some really enormous protests in the United States, some of which included the Kent State Massacre. I know you know about that one. So there were protests roiling campuses across the United States. There was a lot of concern about his credibility as a president. And then on top of all of that, in his run up for the second term, when he was going off facing McGovern, there was the whole Watergate incident,
Hmm.
where a bunch of his aides broke into the Watergate Hotel in order to look up some files in the DNC the Democrat Party's campaign office, and so of course they got caught, and that eventually led to his downfall. And but this was a time when there was a lot of tension in U.S. and not a lot of trust in the presidency, in particularly in Nixon and his administration, and it was getting worse by the week.
All right, well, Bob, thanks for that
Yeah.
recap of what was going on during this time, because I think it's really important for our listeners to understand that, because it really does shape the story that we're
Mm-hmm.
about to cover. And also, if anyone wants to get more information about this story from the actual writer's perspective, we had the writer Steve Englehart on the show back in episode 52. So that was a long time ago, 150 episodes ago. But he was very forthcoming in talking about what, what really moved him, what motivated him to write this story. And it was really a fascinating conversation, because he talked about, during that time in the early 70s, uh, he didn't have to run anything by an editor. All they cared about is if it sold books and you were on time, you could do whatever you want. And so he talks about how he realized that, Captain America as a character, how would he react to what's going on with Nixon and Watergate and everything else. And this he he basically end up writing this story. And he shared a lot of other things as well. So I highly recommend to our listeners, if you haven't listened, or if you just want to refresh yourself, go back and listen to episode 52. I promise it's uh, it's weird going back and listening to yourself, because I did that to kind of prepare for this episode, Bob. And I don't sound like the same person in my mind. Maybe maybe
Yeah.
other people will say, no,
Well,
no,
you're so
you
much
still
more
sound like a doofus.
you're so much more mature now.
Yeah, basically.
You've
Yeah.
really grown.
Yeah. Well, you've rubbed off on me, Bob.
Yeah,
What
well, I
can I
appreciate
say?
that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So talking about Steve Englehart, so that is the plotter. He plotted this particular issue. The scripter
Hmm.
is Mike Friedrich, and he's the one who wrote the the captions and the
Dialogue.
dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the penciler, longtime partner of Steve on this series, is Sal Buscema, inker Vince Coletta, colorist Petra Goldberg, letterer Artie Simic, and editor Roy Thomas, who we also had on the show. And the cover, the cover is done by someone else. So the art is by Gil Kane, with help by John Romita and Gasper Saladino. Bob, do you want to take the listeners through the cover? There's a lot
Yeah,
going on here.
there is a lot going on, right? Because we're this is a city street, so someplace in New York City, presumably, and we see a huge crowd gathered in the background with police holding them back, and there's a paddy wagon. Do they still use that term? I don't know if they still have paddy wagons. I don't know, but a police vehicle, like a van
I
with
haven't
seats
heard
in the
called that in a
back.
long, long
Yeah,
time.
they arrest people, they throw them in the back of the paddy wagon. Anyway, the back door of the paddy wagon's open, and there's a police officer standing there. He's got a billy club in his left hand. He's got a pistol in his right hand, and the pistol is pointing at Cap. Now, Cap he's kneeling here, right? He's got his right knee on the ground and his right hand on the ground, and his left hand is extended in the air, and you can't see, but there's a police officer off scene reaching in and slapping a handcuff on Cap's left wrist. And behind Cap, we see a villain by the name of Moonstone, and he is looming over Cap. Presumably, he has just given Cap a beatdown because Cap's uniform is torn up and Cap is grimacing. So something has just gone down here, and it looks like Moonstone has prevailed in this encounter, and Cap is
Now,
getting hauled off to jail.
now I will say though, we don't know he's a villain, right? This is the introduction of Moonstone. And so, yes,
Good
he's
point.
standing over Cap,
Yeah.
but Cap's also being arrested. So it's hard to tell what's going on just by this cover, right?
Well, that's
It
true.
does suck you in.
Yeah, it does suck you in, and you got to wonder, like if Cap's being arrested, he must have done something because this guy has just beaten him down and handed him over to the cops.
Yep. And there's some dialogue going on, right?
Yeah, so Moonstone he seems very proud of himself. He says, "Ha! I defeated Captain America. I did it. I Moonstone." And Cap says, "Don't start crowing yet, mister. I'll fight back till I'm too battered to stand." And then the police officer off page says, "Negative, Avenger, because we're booking you, and the charge is murder."
And then there's more.
Oh,
There's a question mark at the
there is
bottom.
at the way at the bottom right corner in a question mark. We see, "Why is Captain America a wanted criminal? Find out inside."
Well, I want to figure this out now, right? I mean, that is a cover. I think if you're a kid and you see this on the stand, that's yeah, it's one thing to see a villain and a hero fighting. We see that all the time, but to see a hero getting arrested,
Yeah, not very often, right?
yeah,
Particularly not Cap.
yeah. And 20 cents, Bob, 20 cents gets you this comic back in the day.
What a deal.
I know, right? Ooh, on the back of this, here's an ad for the Evil Knievel.
Oh.
Do you remember this?
Is that the Snake River cycle that you set into the holder and spun it?
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
had that.
The stunt cycle.
Yeah, I had that.
Oh,
I had
I
chicken pox, and I had to stay home from school for like 3 days. And my
uh-huh.
mom, like on the second day, she came home with that for me.
Oh, that's a good mom right there.
Yeah, loved that thing.
Yeah, my brother had chicken pox. My mom, what she did, she just stuck me in the room with them. Said, "You boys play."
Work it out. Yeah, great.
Because that was the thing back then.
Yeah, of
It was like,
course. Yeah.
if you have one kid with chicken pox, well, you might as well have the other kid get chicken pox and deal with both of them at the same time because the other kid's eventually going to get it.
He's eventually going to get it. Yeah. So, yeah, that was the way it worked. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever happened to chicken pox? Did we,
Still around. I think
Yeah.
they have a vaccine now for chickenpox.
Well, not now. I've had a vaccine for decades, right? I
Well,
mean,
that's
I
what I
think
mean
that's why we
now
don't see it anymore.
is currently they have a vaccine, so you don't see a lot of kids. But you do still see sometimes with kids. I've seen kids with it before, and and then they have a vaccine for shingles too, which, by the way, knocked the crap out of me when I took that one. But I'm glad I got it, because
Hmm.
it's much better than the alternative of having to deal with shingles.
Yeah, I hear bad things. All right, so we open up to the opening splash page, and it is just one gigantic page of Captain America. And you'd almost think it's Daredevil because of the radar sense that seems to be going around Cap's head that just keeps circling and circling and circling out. But there's all these fingers being pointed at him, and people yelling murder, 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 and Cap standing there looking shocked, like I don't know what's going on. And the title to this one, Bob, is.
J'accuse.
And what does that mean, Bob?
It means I accuse, Rick.
Ah, in French.
Do you know the origin of that phrase?
No, I sure don't.
Well, I'm glad you asked, Rick. So undoubtedly you're familiar with the Dreyfus
I
affair.
don't think I asked, but okay.
The Dreyfus affair, right? A French general by the name of Alfred Dreyfus was arrested in the 1890s in France and was accused of being a traitor, selling state secrets to the German government, mm-hmm. and was arrested and tried. Very, very flim-flam, charges and secret military trial. Anyway, shipped off to Devil's Island, which I know you're familiar with Devil's Island from that movie Papillon. Remember with Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman?
Sure do.
So there was a French writer by the name of, you're going to love this, Emile Zola.
Really?
Yes. And he took umbrage at this. Now, mind you, Dreyfus was a Jew. And this was a period in France when, anti-Semitism was at one of its highest points. And so the fact
what years are we talking about here?
This was 1890s.
Okay.
Right. So he wrote a public letter that got published in the paper, where he denounced the French generals who had done this. And he actually got charged with libel and convicted, and he had to flee to England for a couple of years before he could return home. But the title of that essay was J'accuse.
And now we know.
Now you know. So it had a Zola connection. I had to use it.
Yeah. Knowing is half the battle. And just why is Captain America accused of murder? Read on, people. So we turn the page, and we're picking up where issue 169 left off. Listen to Quentin Harderman, Slick Madison Avenue advertising executive. All of you saw this blatant reactionary assault, this murder of an innocent man. A man killed by Captain America. Yeah, we sure did. Now wait, this guy's the tumbler who just banged up a store clerk into the hospital, and I didn't hit him that hard. There's just no way I could have killed him. But there is another explanation. You, Harderman. And he goes and he grabs him by the jacket and just pulls him close. You've been running this ad campaign to discredit me. You could have just set this up. Which, in fact, we know he did. But try telling these men in blue. And then the two police officers start rushing towards Cap. Hey, Hank, it looks serious. Then we treat it as serious, Lee. We heard there's a murder charge against you, Captain America, so we aren't taking any chances. Get the hands high. Witness, a man in conflict. These are law officers protecting everything I represent. I can't disobey them. But what if they too are part of the setup? I can't chance it. I've got to break free from here. And sure enough, he pushes away the police officers.
Rick, did you just hear Queen in your head?
No.
You didn't? I
No.
thought I did. I heard a little, I've got to break free. You know that song?
Yeah, I do. No, I don't know that song, Bob. How does it
Nope.
go?
Nope. That's it. That's all I know. So,
Uh,
but I did hear that in my head.
uh,
Yeah.
you
All
just
right.
heard that one part, not the
Just that
rest.
one
Okay.
part. Yeah.
All right. Watch it, Lee. He moves like a speed demon. Stop him. That's the strongest dude this side of the thing. I'm sorry, man, but he's unstoppable. Who's the thing?
He's one of the Fantastic Four, Rick, Ben Grimm.
Ah, yes, he is. I've never done anything like this before. It goes against my entire training, but I have to square this mess away. If I don't stop the rumors and suspicions now, there's no telling where this all will end. So we turn the page, and it's two pages of ads. Hmm. You know, Bob, they'll make me a master of karate for only 99 cents.
Oh, that was a good deal.
But what kind of example is this, Steve Rogers? You've always believed in due process of law. In fact, you've dedicated your life to it. So when the pinch is on, you run. And he stops for a moment and he just kind of rests up against the lamppost in the middle of the street in the middle of the day. You know you're going to turn yourself in if you want to sleep tonight. But that chance never comes as a bolt of black lightning jags through his brain. And he looks like he's yelling out in pain. And then coming up behind him, who's that, Bob?
Here's the guy that we saw on the cover, Rick.
What's he look like?
Well, he's bare armed, right, except for some metal bands around his wrists and his biceps. But he's got some interesting armor on his torso and, of course, over his brief area. It's sort of a bluish metallic armor with a yellow circle in the middle of his chest. He's got what appears to be. Would you consider that lavender, Rick? Is that a
Yeah, sure, let's go with
purplish?
that.
A little lavender purplish, with some light blue boots to match his armor, and then he's got a helmet that is it covers almost his entire head. They call that a 3/4 helmet, with a ridge going from his nose up around the top of his head and down the back that matches his lavender leggings.
Sort
So
of like a short mohawk.
yeah, sort of like a short mohawk. Yeah, absolutely.
That's just a taste, traitor. The power to replace you is here. Where once disgrace, now honor. Where once Captain America, now Moonstone. That sounds like a line out of Hardiman's campaign book, mister. And I don't know who you are, buddy, but since you struck the first blow, those were fighting words. And Cap goes to fight rushing towards him, and Moonstone goes rushing towards them, and arms are cocked, and you can't see what's happening because there's a big, like, little burst in the middle, like a kind of explosion. And what happens next is not what you expect. We turn the page, and Cap's flying backwards from a punch by Moonstone, which makes a loud noise. He wobbles like an atomic pile driver. Got to get my shield around, cushion the impact. Moonstone's on top of me in an instant, though I never saw him move. And he hits the
Bam!
shield.
Clam!
But I'm not just taking it, I'm dishing it out, too, and he punches Moonstone.
Now here's a sound effect that just doesn't ring true, Rick. It says bunk.
Well, yeah, when you sounded like that, Bob, but he's
Oh,
hitting metal,
so you're
so
getting
it's
something
going to be more like a bunk.
all right, listeners. All right. I hear it in my head, but I just don't think the like maybe Michael Winslow, the great sound effects impersonator, could make that sound.
All right, it should be more like bunk.
That's better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could be
All
doing
right.
this all night.
All
Trying to
right.
perfect that one.
I don't listen, man. I don't want to steal your role. You do it like you want to
Thank you.
do it.
I appreciate that.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Incredible. That blow'd normally knock out a horse. How can a moonstone even be conscious? And he dives on top of him, You turn the page, see what happens. Oh, I don't know. What the? Just as I landed, Moonstone vanished. Is this guy human? Assuredly, Captain America, but unlike any human you've ever fought, materializing right in back of me. I possess powers beyond all comprehension, powers from the awesome field of space. But I tire of merely toying with you. My most potent assaults come from searing lasers that I direct at will, at any width for any duration, at any target, and at you, Captain America. And he zaps him with these rays coming from his finger right in the middle of Captain America's torso, knocking him unconscious. And so you've fallen, just as the tumbler was secretly felled before you, felled by hidden deadly blast. Bob,
What? It wasn't Cap hitting him that caused the tumbler's demise?
it was a ray secretly coming from Moonstone.
Wow.
Oh, he's not a good guy.
I guess yeah, that sort of seals it.
Then, as the pursuing law officers and curious crowd reach the scene, here comes the boss. And now for his prearranged speech. Witness, citizens, how a dangerous evil must in time be purged by time-honored American competition. I present, citizens, a new defender of our heritage, a man we can trust. I present Moonstone. Perfect. The consumers are lapping it up. Moonstone's like a runaway chartbuster, in which I hold majority stock. I like how Harderman refers to the crowd as consumers.
Yeah. I know. He's a marketing guy, right, Rick?
Yes, yes. And as a marketing guy, I can tell you and promise you, I don't refer to people as consumers.
Thank you.
Yes. I refer to them as suckers and no, I'm just kidding. um anyway, so that's interesting. Now if you also listen to the interview with Steve Englehart, he talks about how he co-wrote this, and the person who he co-wrote this character with um, is a former advertising guy. So he decided to make the villain an advertising guy.
Mm, fascinating. Yes.
Let us now leave this field of American enterprise to enter an almost alien environment. The African kingdom of Wakanda, developed beyond imagination and shielded from the rest of the world, and called home by its king, the Black Panther. Escorting his guests, the Falcon and his lovely lady, Layla.
There it is, folks.
Now, Bob, describe this room that Black Panther is showing Sam and Layla.
Yeah, well, it appears to be a very technologically advanced room, Rick. So it is filled with all sorts of machinery, computer banks, and there seems to be a very large control console in part of the room. And so T'Challa is pointing out all of these amazing things to his guests.
And I would say Sal Buscema is doing his best rendition of Jack Kirby here.
He is. Yeah. I mean, there's some detail missing that Jack would do, but he's done a serviceable job here for sure.
And Layla, who is Sam Wilson's girlfriend, who knows that he's the Falcon, how would you describe her physical appearance to the listeners?
I mean, she's a Black woman, and she is wearing a bright yellow pants with a bright yellow sleeveless shirt. And she's got long dangly earrings, and she is sporting a 1970s afro.
Mm-hmm. Bob, you left out your favorite description when talking about women.
She's buxom.
No,
No,
she's wearing a skin tight outfit.
Oh yeah, I thought I didn't have to say that anymore. I just thought that went as a given. So yes, it is definitely a skin tight. She doesn't look like a banana, that's for sure.
Woo-wee. We left this to hang out in Harlem? You must have been born wrong side out. Now, Layla, I'm sorry, T'Challa. This fox isn't known for her tact. No offense taken, Falcon. Hers is a valid observation. For a time, I felt my talents were best served in America. But they are sacred talents entrusted to me by my people, and my responsibilities are more demanding. This computer center beneath the royal palace is but a small indication of the sophisticated developments and controls throughout the kingdom. And we turn the page, but I showed it to you to demonstrate the resources we can call upon to produce this artificial power boost you wish. What's he talking about, Bob?
Well, the Falcon, according to the editor's notes, has been wanting something that would allow him to match and complement Captain America's own enhanced strength.
What enhanced strength are we talking about, Bob?
Well, Cap obviously has the super soldier serum, Rick.
Bob, I think it's a little bit more than that. Do you remember when he got that extra strength for a little while during Steve Englehart's run? He became stronger, like
Yeah,
much, much stronger, to the
right,
point
right.
where the Falcon was like, "I don't want to hang out with you anymore. I feel like I'm not doing anything here to help."
Yeah.
And yeah, so he had that extra strength. In fact, we had Steve when we were talking to Steve Englehart. We asked him about that and like why did he all of a sudden have extra strength, and why did it eventually just go away and never be talked about? And
Mm-hmm.
he had an interesting answer for that. But unless you think I've completely cut off my ties to America, let me remind you I am still an active Avenger. But this talk seems to bore you, Layla. May I introduce you Tanzika, one of the court hand maidens. Panther baby, you rap with the school teacher jive you used back in the States, but now I know where you're talking from. Hiya, Tanzika. I got my own hunk of muscle to cuddle next to. Tanziko, why don't you show Layla more of the above ground scenery? Right. The Panther and I have some getting down to do. Yes, my chieftain. If you would be good enough to follow me? Listen, Tanzika. You and the Panther got something going? I don't understand this term you use, though perhaps that makes you think me ignorant. It is not an English term used in any university I have attended. Well, pardon me, Big Mama. Don't lose your cool. Your words are not clear, but your tone is. Don't hassle me, lady. I can see this may be a longer trip than I thought. Then we cut to the next page and we cut to Captain America waking up from being stunned by Moonstone's blast. Not any longer than the trip Captain America's going through. Which way'd that freight train go, anyway? Well, I seem pretty healthy considering. Where am I? And next thing you know, there's all these flash bulbs going off in his face. Jill, what's going on here? I'd best keep my ears open a bit. Now, boys, Moonstone's not a glory hound like Captain America, but I'm sure he'd be willing to answer a few of your questions. I think it's obvious thing the public wants to know is Moonstone's background. What kind of origin do you have, sir? Easily answered, my good man. I have nothing to hide. And then the narrator fills us in. Nothing except the truth, that is, as we shall see in contrast to Moonstone's words. So, this next uh, next 3 pages are going to be Moonstone's origin. And you have Moonstone's words talking to the press, and then you have what's actually going on. So we, as the readers, understand that Moonstone's lying. To begin, gentlemen, my beginnings are humble, a mere janitor in a small Midwestern university. But we see him sneaking into the university through the window, thinking to himself, this job looks easy. No trouble breaking in. Rather stupid to be stealing moon rocks, but if a European collector fanatic enough to offer a high fee, I'm not complaining. And then, sure enough, Bob, there's a case there with rocks in it and a sign on the top that says,
Stones.
huh.
Huh.
Then one evening, while cleaning up a mysterious blue moon rock, it began pulsing in front of me. No one was there to help me. And why no one was there to help him was because he was in there sneaking around at night stealing. But the guards found him. Hands up, fella. You're under arrest. Blast. How could I have tripped an alarm? I checked everything out perfectly. Okay, looks like I've lost this game, but looks can be deceiving. And he throws his toolbox and hits one of the guards, making the other one fall. Uh-oh, those tools hit him hard. I may have murder rap hanging over me now. It's imperative that I escape. And immediately. But the guard who fell must stop him. He's murdered Jack. And then as he goes on to explain to the press, inexplicably, the moon rock shattered all over my arm. But it was explained, Bob, because the guard shot at him and it shot the rock. And then what happens is the it just started to merge. His hand started merging with the moonstone. My arm then glowed with a frightening light and then disappeared. And he actually ends up taking that disappeared fist, and next thing you know, it's firing a ray at the other guard, and it turned him into cinders, Bob.
Oh my goodness!
And then he says to himself in the moment, "I don't get it. Hundreds of scientists must have examined that rock, and nothing happened to them, unless maybe my biochemistry is unique somehow, enough to cause this." And there's something to do with the Watchers.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This moonstone comes from on the moon. The Watcher has his little citadel there in this uh, in the Luther Canyon, right? And there's like a little fake artificial Earth-like environment there, and then the moonstone came from there. But the moonstone is one of several fragments of this. I don't know what they call it, the life tree or something like that. That had been the power source for a bunch of heroes a long time ago, and it got broken up, spread all over the universe. And the moonstone is one of those fragments, apparently.
Ah,
Yeah.
I don't remember that part of the story.
Yeah.
So he's thinking to himself, if I wear some kind of armor to defend me, I can make a fortune now. The awesome responsibility of these new-found powers overwhelmed me. I took my name from my mysterious spatial benefactor, and thus I became Moonstone. To properly use my abilities, I went to Mr. Harderman's Committee to Regain America's Principles. Now, Bob,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the Committee to Regain America's Principles, by the way, the acronym for that? CRAP.
Right.
It's a little. I think Steve Englehart had a little play on the Committee for the Reelection of the President, which was back and
Yeah.
during that time for trying to get Nixon reelected.
Mm-hmm.
So, and by the way, the Committee for the Reelection of the President, the acronym was CRP, but a lot of people just called it CREEP because they didn't like Nixon. So it's
That's
CREEP,
right. I'd forgotten that.
CREEP.
Yeah. Nice
Yeah, yeah.
research, Rick.
Yeah, it's just a little thing called Wikipedia. So he goes and he meets Hardeman. By the way, Hardeman is also a play on the name of Nixon's right-hand man.
H.R. Haldeman, Chief
Yep.
of Staff. Yeah.
The grapevine says that you and the Viper here are setting up to strike it big. That we are, Moonstone, but what's it to you? I want a piece of it, see? I've showed you my abilities. I can be a distinct asset to you. That you can, Moonstone. We can clean up like a white tornado. But there's a problem here. You have to lay low for a while. My reputation is still clean, and we wish to capitalize on it by moving slowly rather than attacking openly. Our secret partner has been captured by Captain America. We must begin our project to discredit the good captain. Right. First, a smear ad campaign to ruin his image, then a murder frame up. And then we cut back to Moonstone talking to the press. And to counteract Captain America, I vowed to join the committee in battling everything evil. And Harderman's loving this. You tell him, Moonstone. This'll sound great on the news tonight. Okay, boys, I think you must have had enough by now. Moonstone has accomplished a lot in his short budding career, and we on the committee are absolutely proud to be associated with him. Thank you, gentlemen. And he walks off with holding the cigarette in his hand. Now, here's a little funny thing.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch SCTV?
Oh yeah, Second City Television. Yeah.
So Martin Short,
Uh-huh.
he played this character with his
Yeah.
hair slicked back
Uh-huh.
and little round glasses, and he was always sweating
Yeah,
and
right.
holding a cigarette. That's who this guy reminds me of.
That's a great callback, Rick. Yeah.
Cap's in the jail holding the bars angrily. Those lying garbage rats. They virtually sell themselves with their sweet, slick Madison Avenue malarkey and gain acceptance, while my protests are dismissed as those of a murderer. Meanwhile, a half a world away, and we cut to the Falcon and Black Panther on a table, and we have a high up view looking down, and there's some schematics there that look nothing like wings for Falcon, but
Right. Yeah.
what have you.
I can't read a schematic, Rick. What do I know?
That's true. You were just a grunt.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Oh, a couple episodes ago, a few episodes ago, Bob, you were explaining the difference between a regiment and a battalion and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I left out a good dad joke.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you like, oh, so that's when you have 4 soldiers, and that's when you have 16 soldiers. And what is that when you have a bunch of babies? Infantry.
I have not heard that one, Rick.
No?
I love that one though. Yeah.
If only you go back 30 years, right?
I know, right? Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna work extra hard on that time machine now.
Phew. These plans of your engineers are really far out. The expertise of the Wakanda have few limits, Falcon. Look out, Panther.
Whack!
What was that, Bob?
Oh my gosh, an arrow just barely missed the two of them.
It looks like an arrow, but it's awfully big.
It is a big arrow, yeah.
Without warning, a spear just misses us. That's because it was a spear, Bob.
Oh, that's a weird looking spear. You don't see a lot of spears with the feathers on the end of them.
I don't think there's feathers though. I think it's I don't know, maybe it's a movement.
Possibly, yeah, okay.
But it does look like feathers. It could be.
Yeah, maybe they're decorative.
What enemy of our tribe could have penetrated to here and with such primitive weaponry? If so, Panther, we're ready. Oh, it's you. We might have surmised by the rather amateurish throw. Do you realize you almost killed somebody with that? And who is it, Bob?
It's Layla.
No, you have to say it right.
Layla.
There you go. And she's just leaning up against the doorpost. She's got her arms crossed. And she got an attitude on her face.
She does. She? That's all attitude.
It got your attention, didn't it? Provided some excitement? I'm getting tired of watching the dust settle. Where's the rustling, hustling, bustling, the action? And we cut to the next panel. And
is she referring to Jungle Action, Rick?
That would be Black Panther's other
right.
series.
Yeah.
We cut to the next panel, Bob, and I just want to say before I get into the Black Panther's dialogue,
yeah,
I have to point out something that I a little offended, that Sal Buscema decided to objectify Layla in this panel because there is no explanation
Yeah.
for why you only see a part of her body, and
Yeah.
it's basically from the knees to the boobs.
I think it was just trying to like, achieve a forced perspective here, Rick, that like he was just trying to like show that there was some depth to this room.
He's forcing something. He's forcing you to look at one part of her body.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking.
You are wed to the big city, aren't you, Layla? Unfortunately, for you, that is, Wakanda is far from such places. Black Panther, that's all jive. You dudes here have transportation the MTA ain't even dreamed of. You could fly me someplace in one of your gizmos. But I thought you enjoyed this change, away from the projects. Like a cockroach crawling up my back at night, I do. No way, baby. I'm stone bored. There's no need for anger, Layla. What you claim is true, and I am short-sighted to not have thought of it. Well, all right. I guess that will solve the problem. We are agreed. Then I will order the preparations immediately. So next page, we cut to Layla getting on one of those flying gizmos and waving back to a waving Sam and T'Challa. And so, just minutes later, a cheerful set of hasta la visas are exchanged. I just said hasta.
It made me hungry. I was thinking about pasta.
Oh.
So,
And the sleek Wakandian craft jets almost noiselessly into the clear blue African skies, though Layla is not able to observe them. Why is that, Bob?
because the window has turned black, so she can't see anything out.
Hey, the window, it's turned black. What's happening? And then you see a couple of the other people on who are escorts of hers. Two men wearing ancestral tribal
Yeah.
gowns of some
Yeah.
sort and
Yeah. Some sort of
headbands.
traditional wear. Yeah.
No one is to know your location of our land. It is our rule. Then Layla will just have to content herself with you, handsome escorts, won't she? Oh, would my little Madeira scowl were she to have heard that.
There's like
All right.
there's some excess like internal thought
Yeah,
balloon.
why do we have that?
You don't really need that,
Right.
right?
Especially in one page from now when we see
Yeah.
what happens.
Right. Madeira never like shows that I don't recall.
Are we
So
supposed to feel bad for Maderi
I guess
after
so.
what happens?
Sunflowers.
Hmm. But Layla's uncomfortable escort relaxes in the tourist section of a faraway Lagos, Nigeria, as Layla's attentions change. This is more like it. And when I come back with some real local color, the foxes on the street are going to be blown away. Silly tourist, but it is not my duty to judge her. Wait, that accent. Stop the car, Jangles. And then the car that was driving by stops, and who's coming out of the car, Bob?
Oh my gosh, it's Stoneface.
Stoneface. He's a villain. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a villain in Harlem. What's he doing in Nigeria?
Oh my god, that's a long way from home, Rick.
As I suspected, a Harlem lady, and beautiful as well. Who? His name's Stoneface. Ran the Harlem rackets once, till Falcon busted him. When he got out of the pen, the new boss, Morgan, bought him a free ticket out of town, which gives me a lot of time for planning, my lady. But the exile has its compensations, like the warmth of a home woman. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the homeland woman, you know?
The exile has its compensations, like the warmth of a home woman. What
Yeah,
does that even mean?
like being in exile has its compensations, like the warmth of a home woman.
It doesn't seem like he's being compensated, though.
Well, I think he means figuratively. Like there's some trade-offs, right? He's not back in Harlem, but he's back in the homeland.
Yeah, I would say the exile has its uh, bad things, like the warmth of a home woman, right? I mean, that's the
No, I
meaning
think
behind it.
I think he's looking at as that being a positive trade-off to having been stuck in exile in Nigeria.
That he doesn't have the warmth of a home woman.
That he does have the women there.
Okay, I still don't get it.
Yeah, I know. It's not well written there.
You looked up the wrong alley, Jack. Do your number elsewhere. You've forgotten, woman, even here, that what Stoneface wants, he gets. Hey, let go! You are not to touch her, American. And the two companions come to grab Stoneface, but the other guys in the car, they come out and they got guns, Bob.
They sure do. Butter.
And that was the machine gun.
Yeah.
There's another gun.
Kapow, pow, pow.
They're messing with the boss. Off 'em, Jangles. Yeah, I've been getting rusty lately. Your marksmanship is still among the best, Jangles. Now quickly, before the local authorities can be summoned. You motherless murderers! Shut up, you skinny-legged witch, and get yourself in the car. Then keep yourself warm for Stoneface tonight. Him? That cur's son couldn't. Close it, lady, or there won't even be a tonight. Got that? All right, turn the page. Meanwhile, back in Wakanda, and we see a Wakanda. I don't know. Is he a soldier, a worker?
He's looks like he's the communications guy, I guess, right?
Okay. The Americans' escorts have not reported as scheduled, and worse, do not answer when called. Only a disaster could have caused this. My chieftain, I have important news for you. Speak, then. I hold no secrets from the Falcon. My chieftain, it is best that I inform you alone. The Black Panther comes, then, and hears the ominous tale. And like a king true born, he swiftly acts. Summon my royal aircraft and a dozen of my best men. We leave at once. As you command, my chieftain. Now, the harder task. And he goes to tell the Falcon. But off panel, we hear Sam say, Don't sweat thinking of the right words, Panther. I couldn't help it over here. And then the next page, and it looks like we finished my new costume improvements just in time. What are we looking at here?
He's got his wings on, Rick. Those beautiful red wings that now attach along his arms and along his torso. They're pretty sharp. They really complement the costume.
Right, because it's like feathers, right?
Yeah, right.
Like
yeah.
rows of feathers. These incredibly light but super strong. He says super strong twice.
He does, yeah. They're really strong. He could have just said really, really strong.
Glider wings, jet powered from their tips by those wafer thin integrated circuits.
Do it. You know you want to. How thin are they, Rick?
Wafer thin. Wafer thin.
Wafer thin.
Integrated circuits feeding off a sunlight charged power pack and all controlled by direct link to my brain. Well, with these, this Falcon can fly, brother. And right now, he wants to hunt. Let's get him. And then there's like a gigantic splash of Falcon. And then, of course, we got Sal trying to do his best Kirby in the background.
Yeah.
With some of the Kirby little rays and machinery. And then we see Falcon and Black Panther running off panel.
Apparently no training required.
Yeah. Well, it links to his brain, Bob.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Then we cut back to the jail cell where Cap's just sitting there on the bunk, hands on his knees, looking down. And the guard comes up to him and says, You know, Cap, the wife and me, we was saying how we thought this here's a bum rap on you. Just thought you might want to know. Thanks, officer. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I could just see your excitement. Ain't hard telling when a body wants to be left alone. I know deep down that the judicial process will eventually clear me, but in the meantime, I'm completely helpless to do anything about Moonstone, and no chance of getting out until my trial. And then there's an explosion in the wall, Bob.
Kablam!
And then there's a big opening. And what do we see?
Some Oompa Loompas.
They
Well,
are
I don't
rather
know.
short,
They
right?
they do, they do look a little diminutive, right? But there
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of these guys, right? I mean, you can see four clearly, but you see some shadows of more in the background,
Yeah.
and they're wearing sort of purplish suits with yellow gloves, and they got some yellow head coverings, and they're all carrying some sort of Kirby-esque weapon, and they've come for Cap.
And there's smoke everywhere from like just above their knees down. That's why they look like Oompa Loompas, because
Yeah.
you can't
Okay.
see the rest of their
Yeah.
bodies. But yeah, there's smoke everywhere. And one of them looks at Cap, who looks startled. Come on, Cap, we're supporters of yours. We're busting you out of this place. Oh no. Is this what it's come to already? The country polarized into two camps, each willing to go to violent means to achieve their ends? If I escape with them, I'll be breaking the law and virtually confirming everyone's suspicions of me. But if I stay, Moonstone may never be exposed. What can I do? Dun dun dun. Next,
Wow.
the choice.
It's a dilemma.
Really is. A couple of things about this panel.
Uh huh.
I'll get one out of the way, which is if I'll be breaking the law. I, in my head, wanted to go right to Butthead, breaking the law, breaking the law. But I didn't do it because I didn't interrupt the story.
Yeah. Sorry.
Uh, but how about those two thought bubbles, right?
Yeah.
Is this what it's come to already? The country polarized into two camps, each willing to go to violent means to achieve their ends. Well, Bob, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah. Life comes in cycles like bouffant hairdos and bell bottom jeans, right? Things that were old become new again, and on and on and on.
Yeah. All right. What'd you think of this opening story to Secret Empire?
Well, I think it does a pretty good job, setting up what's to come, right? I mean, we've got questions around Cap, finally that's been resolved. He didn't actually kill the tumbler, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a number of things in this story that sort of bug me a little bit, Rick. And
The
hopefully,
dialogue.
well, the dialogue's one of them, obviously. Yeah. Particularly the Harlem Jive dialogue. That's
Ugh,
always, and
I felt dirty just saying it.
I know, right? And part of it is like the whole beginning scene, with Cap arguing with himself, and like he basically like breaks breaks through a bunch of police officers to try to escape, right? Because he thinks he's being set up,
Yeah.
but like
But then
that,
he catches himself. He was in the heat of the
all right,
moment.
oh, I know, but it just seemed very, like the whole time he's like talking himself out of it. So
Mm-hmm.
it just seemed a bit forced. I didn't like to see Cap do that. I guess I'm a purist.
Well, listen, as a writer, it just you got to do that to make. Otherwise, it's a boring story.
Sure.
The police were like, "Hold it." Okay. I mean,
Get in the paddy wagon.
yeah, yeah. All
Yeah.
right. He just wanted to add a little zest to the story. I don't have a
I
problem with it.
guess.
He
I
was in the
think
heat of
I
the
might have
moment.
felt better. Like don't get me wrong here. I'm not like, like bending my knee to, authority sort of thing here. And I realize, contextually what was going on at this time. And there were a lot
Yes.
of, street riots, and there was a lot of, anti-police sentiment, anti-military sentiment. And so, I would much preferred to see him get arrested, get himself thrown in that paddy wagon, and then break out of that paddy wagon without like
Hmm.
bowling over a bunch of police officers. But
Hmm.
you're right. You got to read it through, the lens of when it was written, and the audience it was written for at the time.
It's interesting to me, Bob. and we'll get to the story here in a second, but I one of the things that I wanted to, I guess, bring up before, in that is what these comics go for in the in like a in the price guide.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, like this whole Secret Empire, which is a really um beloved story from
Right.
people, from back in that time period. Issue 170 is known as the first part of the story. Um, and right now, like a near mint copy, the guide goes for $20.
Mm-hmm.
Next issue, 171, shoots up to 55.
Wow.
That's a big difference, 20 and 55.
It sure is.
Then the next one, two, three, four issues, 35.
Okay.
Why is this one not as, I don't know, valued as the other stories,
Interesting.
issues in this story?
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it is first appearance of Taziki,
yeah.
right? So,
Um, yeah, we also have a couple deaths, right?
right.
But I think that the reason the next one's $55 is because it's the first appearance of Falcon's wings
Okay. Yeah.
and he's flying.
Right. Makes sense.
It's the whole story of Incredible Hulk 180, 181,
Or yeah, right.
right?
Because he's
Like,
got
where,
that big splash page here,
yeah, what's
right?
the difference between the first appearance of Wolverine
Yeah.
and a cameo of Wolverine?
Right.
I'm going to tell you all right now.
Yeah.
Talk about dividing into two
Yeah.
parties and violence about to happen. Bob,
Right. Yeah.
where do you stand on the Hulk 180, 181? Which
Yeah.
one is the first appearance of Wolverine?
Well, I got to tell you, I don't own either of them, Rick,
Me either. I don't
and
either.
I have no intention because I'm not a Wolverine fan or anything like that. And but to me, it would be 180, right? I mean, it's the one he first appears in, and I understand that like if it's if a character shows up and he's all maybe he's, and I haven't read it quite honestly, but if the character is completely shrouded, like we've seen
Hmm.
like the first appearance of Crossbones, right?
Yeah,
complete,
right.
complete
Completely shrouded. Yeah, he's in
completely shrouded
shadow. Yeah.
shadows, right? Okay, got it. That's not his first appearance. It's when he actually you can see his appearance.
Hmm.
It seems common sense, right? That would be the first appearance.
Yeah. Uh, I'm with you, Bob.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Wolverine. First appearance is 180. And I'm also going to go first appearance of Falcon's Wings, Captain America 170.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this
So,
one seems like a slam dunk, right? I mean, I mean, by the way, that would who owns that one? That would be a great page to own,
oh,
wouldn't that?
right?
You know?
I was thinking the same exact thing when I was reading this. It was like, of all the pages in this book,
Yeah,
that is a
that's
great page to
it's a
own.
great page. Yeah,
Falcon is first wings. Yeah. Well, speaking of pages and panels, Bob, you go first. What is your favorite panel of this
ooh,
story?
I'm gonna go with that page one splash page, Rick. Uh,
Really?
yeah, I don't know. I kind of like it. It's very psychedelic and groovy,
Mm-hmm.
baby. And so coming out of the 60s, having those swirling circular colors behind
Mm-hmm.
Cap has a real laughing feel to it. And I love the shocked look on Cap's face and all the fingers pointing at him. I love all of the murder and very different fonts around him, and I love the use of j'accuse. So for me, there's a lot going on there that rings a lot of different bells for me.
All right.
Yeah. How
Nice.
about how about yourself?
Well, I'm going to go with page 14, panel 3. That's the one where Layla, we only get to see her from the knees to the boobs. Uh, that panel, uh,
That's your favorite panel?
it's not for the reason you think.
Oh, of course not. No, I know.
It's because of the ridiculousness of it. It's just I can't believe Sal Buscema decided like this is what I'm going to draw.
Yeah.
And this is 1973
Yeah.
male chauvinistic, type of let's make
Yeah.
comics appeal to young boys. Uh, I don't know.
Maybe it's like I just don't want to draw those facial features and those hoop earrings. It's just so much work. I
I guess
just focus from the upper torso to you know the
it's just
groin
so
area.
ridiculous. Anyway. I'm like, yeah, that's the panel that sticks out to me the most in this book.
All right, that's a good choice. How about your t-shirt worthy?
On T-shirt, I'm going with page 5.
what?
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 What? And I'm going panel 4, which is the famous bunk panel.
I was gonna go with that one, Rick.
Were you really?
I really was. Yeah.
Oh, uh, but that's a cool panel to put on a shirt, right? Because it's Cap knocking somebody back. You only see like their feet and a hand, and you see them flying. It's got a cool sound effect, and I like Cap saying, "But I'm not just taking it; I'm dishing it out too." And he's doing a
Yeah.
cross right, and
Uh-huh.
so that's a cool panel. I'm putting it right here on the shirt,
All
baby.
right, all right, yeah, that was one of the reasons that really stood out for me as well. And also because it's just that how many times have we seen that sort of composition where like the feet are flying, through the air, and you can only
Yeah,
see from like the knees down, and Cap has like walloped somebody. I
that's
love
definitely
that.
a Kirby type,
Yeah,
pose. Yeah.
I love that. I love that composition.
All right.
And
So, what's your backup plan for your T-shirt, Bob?
well, I'm going to go on the previous page where Cap and Moonstone are charging into each other. And there's just sort of an explosion of light when they come into contact. So you don't
Mm-hmm.
actually see their faces.
Mm-hmm.
But Cap, yells out, "Those were fighting words."
Mm. Yep.
I'm gonna go with that.
Nicely
Yeah.
done. Good pivot. What's going in your time capsule?
Oh, Rick. This is an easy one for me. I gotta go with the Harlem Job dialogue. Yeah, I felt like I was watching an episode, I was rewatching Airplane.
Excuse me, stewardess. I speak jive.
Right, exactly. Right, that's exactly what I was thinking, and I'm like, oh my gosh. We've had this conversation before about some of the previous dialogue around this time frame, and I guess we can't pin this one on Englehart. We got to pin this one on Friedrich. So,
Yes.
but it was just definitely overwrought, and none of that would fly these days.
No.
And I
It was.
appreciate, you got to be appreciative, right? Because they have integrated. Now we've got T'Challa, we've got Sam, we've got Layla. They're playing
We got who?
central roles. Layla,
What?
Layla.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're playing central roles. And Falcon's on the title, for crying out loud, right? So, they've made great strides for Black characters, African American characters, and Wakandan, and but like the dialogue hadn't caught up yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And how convoluted is the story where Stoneface ends up in Nigeria where Layla happens to be,
right, yeah,
and he's driving by and he hears a an accent that's familiar to him, so he pulls over,
right, yeah.
and because he wants a home woman, as he said,
That's
right?
right, yeah.
I feel like I want to be like Deadpool and go, that was lazy writing.
That- and I'm still not over the fact that his henchman's name is Jangles. So
Mr. Bojangles.
that's in my head. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what's
yeah.
in my head?
Was that the name of the mouse from
I don't know.
Walking the Green Mile? The Green Mile. What was the mouse's name? Mister Jangles or
I didn't
something?
see the Green Mile.
You didn't see the Green Mile?
I know it's a good movie. I need to see
Oh
it.
my gosh, it's such a good movie.
You
Yeah.
also haven't seen Shawshank Redemption.
Wow.
I know.
Holy
Hey,
cow.
ready? I'm gonna blow your
Yeah.
mind more. Ready?
Yeah.
You know what else I haven't seen? Top Gun.
I'm seeing a whole different side of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, a guy
Yeah.
that with easily rattles off pop culture facts about movies and bands,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like those are like
Well,
three like pop culture movie, like iconic movies.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, I guess I guess I got to get busy living.
Guess so. Yeah, you gotta make trade-offs. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
All
one
right.
of the
Guess what's going in my
compensations.
time capsule?
What, Rick?
That would be the splash page of the first
I
time
figured
appearance
it
of
might be.
Falcon's uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad you didn't take it because I had no backup.
Yeah. Well, that's the way I
Yeah,
am.
that's to me noteworthy, right? This is the very
Yeah.
first. I mean, heck, people agree because all of a sudden it's a $55 comic versus a $20 comic.
Yeah. Right. Makes all the difference.
Indeed.
So
All right, Bob. I think this was a good opening to Secret Empire, and for our listeners and watchers, viewers out there, make sure you come back the the second Wednesday of next month for the next part. And then if you're on YouTube, I create like these little channels for different things. And so I'll create a Secret Empire channel. So I'll have all of them in there so that you can go and find them very easily and just watch those. Um, so Bob, as always, been fun wrapping cap with you.
it has. I can't wait till next week, Rick.
Me too. All right, he's Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis. And please, if you don't mind, do rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen. If you're on YouTube right now, please click that thumbs up button. Leave us a comment wherever it is, YouTube, Facebook page. We'd love seeing the comments, and maybe we'll even refer to them here on the show. And as always, we thank you for listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.